Cuba calls out Bolivia's undiplomatic conduct. China taking no chances as coronavirus spins out of control. And helicopter crash claims NBA's legend's life. Hello and welcome to Telesur English. I am Estefania Bravo. This is from the South. Cuba has denounced Bolivia's de facto government's decision to suspend diplomatic relations with Havana. The Foreign Affairs Ministry issued a statement condemning that decision and stating that the de facto government's move is due to pressure from the United States and its schemes to impose the Monroe Doctrine on the island nation. The statement said since seizing power last year, Bolivia's de facto government has carried out systematic acts to sabotage bilateral relations with Cuba. The ministry reiterated the country's respect for norms and principles of international law and its obligation of non-interference in other states' internal affairs. In Colombia, another former FARC combatant has been murdered. 42-year-old Johnny Freddy Vargas Rojas was killed while working on agricultural projects in the rural zone of Pitalito, department of Huila. He was part of the ongoing reintegration process. Colombian Senator Carlos Lozada condemned Vargas' murder, criticizing the government's violence and complicity in the murders of social leaders. Freddy Vargas is the fourth victim to be killed in 1 month. China is scrambling to contain the new coronavirus as the number of deaths reaches 56. The country's National Health Commission on Sunday announced that almost 2,000 people have been infected by the contagious virus. The commission also warned that the virus' ability to spread is getting stronger, hence making efforts to bring it under control a challenge. The government has since placed a ban on wildlife trading and increased restrictions on movements.
Looking at things now, the spread of the virus is quite fast, which poses challenges and pressure for the prevention work. Some experts have estimated that we are now in a critical and complex period.
Meanwhile, opposition and protesters in the Chinese city of Hong Kong have torched the newly built building that authorities were planning to use as a quarantine facility for coronavirus patients. According to witnesses, a group of mass protesters set alight the building in the city's Fanling district using a Molotov cocktail. The arsonist's motive remains unknown. The attack on the proposed quarantine facility came a few hours after authorities in Hong Kong announced that the city has recorded six confirmed and 177 cases of the new coronavirus.
In the past 24 hours, that is at noon today, we have 77 additional suspected cases. There are still 107 patients who are staying in hospital for isolation and management. Just now, Dr. Chung already said that for confirmed cases, there were 5 today. There is an additional 1, so a total of 6. Earlier on, we have reported on the 5 cases at Princess Margaret Hospital. They are at the infectious disease center and they are all in a stable condition.
Meanwhile, France has announced it will repatriate about 100 of its citizens from Wuhan, that is the epicenter of a deadly virus outbreak.
The Prime Minister asked to repatriate French citizens on a direct flight to France, in agreement with Chinese authorities. This repatriation will occur midweek. A medical team will be assigned to the repatriation. It is already being assembled by the Health Ministry in order to prevent the virus from spreading on the homeland. The people being repatriated will be monitored by medical professionals and will stay for 14 days in a facility.
United States basketball legend Kobe Bryant has died in a helicopter crash on a Los Angeles suburb, according to local media reports. Police officials confirmed the accident on Sunday afternoon, saying Bryant was killed alongside his 13-year-old daughter, Gianna Maria Honore, and 3 other people when a Sikorsky S-76 helicopter crashed in Calabasas, west of Los Angeles. The cause of the accident is still unknown. 41-year-old Bryant was a 5-time NBA champion in a career that began in 1996 and lasted until his retirement in 2016. He also was a 2-time Olympic gold medalist, helping the U.S. squad win titles at the Beijing and London Olympics in 2008 and 2012, respectively. Bolivia's deposed President Evo Morales has said the state of Bolivia must guarantee free and fair elections. During a meeting with Bolivian farmers in Pilar, Argentina, Morales mentioned how he hopes that the de facto government guarantee free elections. Bolivia's de facto President Janine Áñez said on Friday that she will be a candidate in the upcoming elections, despite the fact that she had previously said she wouldn't run for president, as it, quote, wouldn't be honest. The general elections are set to take place on May 3rd of 2020.
Last night, we were informed that there are several right-wing alliances. We respect that. It's a democratic right. We hope that the de facto government of the dictatorship will be able to guarantee fair, transparent, and honest elections. If we want it to be a good democracy, they have to guarantee free and fair campaigning. But on top of that, there can be no elections without democracy. It is a state duty to guarantee fair elections.
This Saturday marked 1 year since a dam owned by mining giant Vale collapsed in the Brazilian town of Brumadinho, killing 272 workers. Local residents say they will not allow such a tragedy to happen ever again. Andre Vieira has a story.
This is what's left of the dam in Córrego do Feijão, Brumadinho. 1 year ago, it collapsed and left 272 dead. It destroyed the environment and contaminated the Paraopeba River. This Saturday, residents of the community and those affected by the disaster marched to demand justice for the victims and a fair sentence against the mining company Vale, responsible for the dam collapse.
Every day we have to struggle in order to remove the mud. This has been so sad. Today we are demanding justice, so that other people, other communities, don't go through what we went through. It's been 1 year of suffering, 1 year of torture, 1 year of being buried by this mud.
In the morning, the protesters entered the community of Córrego do Feijão. They walked through the mud up to the old highway that was also destroyed in the tragedy. Where people walked through before is now a police barrier.
The police treats us this way. They put barriers in order for us not to come close to the mud, as if we were criminals, and we are not criminals. I've lived here for many years. Before, this place was very peaceful. In this community, we are all family.
The march then proceeded to a local church. There, the church bell rang 272 times at 12:28, the exact time when the tragedy occurred on January 25, 2019.
We are here to serve, to organize, to fight, in order for justice to be served in this case, and for justice, equality, and fraternity around the world.
While Vale tries to buy time not to pay compensations, it recently distributed to its shareholders $1.7 billion of profit for 2019. On the other hand, the company will cut by half the funds set aside for its emergency plans to assist the more than 93,000 people living in 48 cities and towns affected by the pollution of the Paraopeba River.
During this march, we made this claim. How do mining companies work? What's their logic? How does Vale and other companies work in a way that they put profit above people's lives? How are they able to commit such crimes?
The mining company Vale is one of the biggest in the world. But the residents of Brumadinho promised to be even bigger and not allow what happened here to happen anywhere else in the world.
And still in Brazil, landslides caused by heavy rains have killed 44 people and left thousands homeless in the city of Belo Horizonte, the capital of Minas Gerais state. Authorities said another 17 people are still missing following the landslides and flooding. According to Brazil's National Institute of Meteorology, Belo Horizonte registered 171 millimeters of rainfall over the course of 24 hours on Friday. the highest recorded precipitation in the area in 110 years. More rain is expected in Minas Gerais as well as other parts of Brazil, including Rio de Janeiro and Sao Paulo. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Chilean protesters were back on the streets this weekend to vent their anger over the country's inadequate pensions, fragile safety net, and police brutality against demonstrators. Fueled by outrage at Piñera, the Chilean elite that controls most of the wealth, the South American country has since October been in the midst of its worst social unrest since the transition to democracy from military dictatorship in 1990. Friday's protests were also used to honor those who have been killed during the protest.
This shrine in honor of Mauricio, because of his death, because he was a frontline fighter. He died fighting. He believed in this, and he died believing in this.
Peruvians headed to the polls on Sunday to decide on new members of Congress after President Martín Vizcarra dissolved parliament 4 months ago following a deadlock with the opposition. Peruvians will choose the 130 members of the unicameral legislature from candidates from some 20 political parties. The ballot represents a political showdown with 22 parties vying for 130 seats in Congress, which was dissolved in September by Vizcarra amid a long-running standoff with lawmakers over anti-corruption reforms. Preliminary results are expected to be announced on Sunday night. Dozens of activists from Mexico and the United States have taken to the streets in the Mexican town of Ciudad Juárez to protest for the victims of femicide following the murder of a 26-year-old local activist. Women's rights activist and artist Isabel Cabanillas de la Torres was shot dead on Saturday night on a sidewalk next to a bicycle. She worked on gender-based violence with the women's network Mesa de Mujeres and was a member of Hijas de su Maquilera Madre, a group where family members work at large manufacturing plants. According to human rights group RFK, from 1985 to 2014, there were over 47,000 women killed in Mexico due to their gender.
To demand that the government, at all 3 levels of government, finally, because we are being murdered, solely because we are women. So now we find ourselves demanding justice for Isabel, and for the 8 women murdered within the year, and for the thousands who have been murdered throughout the country and who have disappeared. 2019 was the most violent year for women in the whole country. So instead of making it more visible so that this would decrease, I think the policies are going backward. So no security protocols have been generated by the government to guarantee our security. They are still negligent.
An armed attack on a military base in central Mali has killed 19 soldiers and left 5 others with serious injuries. According to a local government official, heavily armed gunmen ambushed the camp at about 5 a.m. local time on Sunday. They opened fire on the soldiers who were inside the camp and destroyed some structures before leaving. The military said reinforcements have been sent to the area and that a search was underway for the unidentified attackers. No one has claimed responsibility for the attack yet. Authorities in South Africa have reburied the exhumed remains of 9 men who were hanged by the apartheid regime 59 years ago. The 9 were hanged on September 5, 1961, after they were accused of killing 9 apartheid police officers who had raiding a black township of the outskirts of Durban to enforce apartheid laws. During the raid, the police clashed with residents, firing at the public and killing 1 person. The enraged community attacked the officers, killing 9. During apartheid, the state retained custody of the remains of hanged freedom fighters, and their families were not allowed to bury them. More than 3,000 people in the Nigerian city of Lagos have been left in the cold after the country's navy demolished their houses. According to government officials, the homes were demolished because the residents illegally occupied the land and accused some residents of vandalizing nearby crude oil pipelines. The residents, however, claim that the government is pushing them out to create ways for a luxury housing state. The government has in the past come under fire from human rights organizations who accuse it of grabbing land from the poor and giving it to international real estate firms. Agriculture experts are warning that the current locust invasion in East Africa poses a danger to the region's food security. The warning came a day after Kenyan authorities appealed for international help to combat the destructive pest. More than $17 million is required for urgent pest control. The outbreak, which is Kenya's worst in 70 years, has seen hundreds of millions of the bugs swarm into the East African nation from Somalia and Ethiopia. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Libya's Tripoli-based UN-backed Government of National Accord, GNA, has accused Renegade General Khalifa Haftar of breaching the ceasefire signed 2 weeks ago to end months of fighting between the two sides. Spokesperson for the government said Haftar's so-called Libyan National Army on Sunday launched attacks on the town of Abu Ghraib, a GNA stronghold. On January 12th, the two sides signed a ceasefire brokered by Turkey and Russia. But talks for a permanent ceasefire ended without an agreement after Haftar left peace talks in Moscow without signing the deal. The residents of Italy's Emilia-Romagna have gone to the polls in a key regional election. The right-wing opposition leader Matteo Salvini is hoping to use the election to extend the influence of his League party. Salvini's candidate Lucia Borgongosoni is facing the outgoing Democratic incumbent regional president Stefano Bonaccini, who hopes to gain a new mandate. Salvini gained notoriety for his anti-immigrant and confrontational politics during the time he served as the country's deputy prime minister. Voting ends at 11 p.m. local time and definitive results are expected on Monday morning.
Today, I voted for Bonaccini as president. Obviously, I could have never voted for Salvini's double.
Protests have been held across Australia calling for the date of the national holiday to be changed. The Australia Day is celebrated on January 26 and commemorates the arrival of European settlers to Australia more than 230 years ago. The protesters are demanding that the day be moved to a different date in respect to the country's indigenous people whose lands were stolen by settlers and their communities pushed into poverty. They say the current date is insensitive to the indigenous people and the suffering they went through at the hands of the settlers.
I can see how it's so upsetting for Indigenous Australians. I'm upset by it, and I think it's only a matter of time before the Australian government has to recognise that it's not a good thing to celebrate this invasion, particularly, I mean, given the massacres, the destruction of culture and language. It's shameful.
I'm here to be a voice. Australia wants to hear the history of Australia. Well, we're here to tell the truth. Today's not about a celebration, it's a day of mourning. Let's not forget what has happened on this day, January 26, 1838, Waterloo Creek Massacre.
Hopes have faded of finding more survivors in Turkey as the death toll from a 6.8 magnitude quake has risen to 36. Nearly 4,000 rescue workers combed through debris in the city of Elazig, but chances of finding more survivors after Friday's powerful earthquake have become dim. So far, the authorities say 45 people have been rescued alive, while more than 1,600 were injured, including 104 still in the hospital. As over 700 buildings get heavily damaged, many residents sought shelter, some in trains as they were afraid of returning to their homes.
We organize ourselves this way. We leave the sleeping compartment for the children to sleep in. We go in the other wagon. We can't lie down in it, but we can at least sleep on the seats.
We have 10 wagons during the day and up to 20 in the evening, depending on the needs. We also have 10 large wagons that will arrive from Ankara, who adapt their numbers according to the needs on the spot.
With an inaugural parade followed by thousands of people, the year-wide carnival, considered the longest in the world, has officially begun.
We're
Uruguay's carnival is famous for being the longest carnival in the world, and that's because it can actually last more than 50 days. This Thursday, the inaugural parade was held in front of tens of thousands of people and with almost 1,000 artists participating in the parade.
Montevideo's carnival is a very extensive carnival, which has several activities. This is the inaugural one, which is the inaugural parade in the 18 de Julio Avenue, which is where all the groups that are going to be part of the festivity during the whole month of February and the initial part of March are presented.
The Uruguayan Carnival is essentially a Montevideo festival, but there are still thousands of shows that are also being carried out in all departments of the country. To participate in the official competition, groups rehearse for many months.
For us, it is an exciting moment. Very nice. After 3 or 4 months of rehearsals and things, well, it's a moment of relaxation, the parade. We parade with all our family, our children, and the people who support us, so we are happy again.
This year, more than 50 groups participated in the parade, including Mujas, the Boro Group, and comedians. After the parade, the party goes on for weeks on more than 30 stages distributed throughout the city's neighborhoods.
The carnival is a celebration, but above all, it is a possibility to share divine moments with the family, with the friends, with the family that one chooses.
Today is the beginning of the longest carnival in the world. It is a moment where each one of us enjoys art, dance, music, poetry, everything that the artists who are here today will give us for a few days.
The carnival for us is an explosion of joy, of color, of beauty. All our artists go out to the streets, all to demonstrate. Those artists who are prepared, those who are not, the amateurs, the fans, all of us are in the streets wanting to participate in some way in the carnival.
A day after the inaugural parade, the Samba School Parade is held along the same Montevideo Road. And on February 7 and 8, it will be the turn of the Armadas Parade, the traditional festival of African origin associated with the Uruguayan carnival.
And with that, we've come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And join us on social media. We are on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. For Telesur English, I am Estefania Bravo. Until next time.